at 6. We'll see you then.
Oh, you can't imagine how glad I am to see you.
The last of the American hostages, Terry Anderson, is free.
For a long
From ABC, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings. Sitting in tonight, Sam Donaldson.
Good evening. America's long hostage crisis in Lebanon came to an end today when Terry Anderson, the Associated Press's Mideast bureau chief, who was kidnapped back in March of 1985, came out to freedom. For the country, it was the end of a feeling of national frustration and of impotence, highlighted by the Reagan administration's arms trading with Iran. For Anderson, the longest held of any of the hostages, it was a profoundly joyous moment. Anderson surfaced late today in the Syrian capital of Damascus, and ABC's Charles Glass was there.
Tonight, after 6 years and 9 months of having to speak other people's words, Terry Anderson was at last able to use his own.
Oh, you can't imagine how glad I am to see you. I've thought about this moment for a long time, and now it's here.
This was not a press conference like those here for other hostages. It was a gathering of friends, colleagues who had waited and worked for his freedom. He thanked all those who were there and many who weren't.
Your support, your prayers were important. They made a big difference. They made a difference to us in some very dark times. My family, of course, my incredible sister Peg, I will be thanking shortly, myself and personally.
He said his last 24 hours were the longest. While he waited in Beirut, confusing reports in Damascus had him being set free hours earlier than he actually was.
I spent the afternoon, interestingly enough, playing solitaire by candlelight and listening to the BBC reporting on my progress toward Damascus.
Terry Anderson showed every sign of enjoying his first moments of freedom.
What kept me going on? Well, my companions. I was lucky enough to have other people with me most of the time. My faith. Stubbornness, I guess. You just do what you have to do. You wake up every day and you summon up the energy from somewhere, even when you think you haven't got it, and you get through the day. And you do it day after day after day. And it works.
He left for a date with 2 beautiful ladies, he said, the daughter he's never seen and her mother.
What were your last words to the kidnappers?
Goodbye.
If this is the final chapter of the American hostage drama in Lebanon, there is still an epilogue. 2 Germans and an Israeli are still held by Lebanese Shiite Muslims, and about 250 Lebanese are still held by the Israelis. They may soon be forgotten in the rest of the world, but they won't be in Lebanon. Charles Glass, ABC News, Damascus.
If Anderson was the happiest person involved in today's hostage release, a lot of people were close behind. Family and friends back home expressed their pleasure that this day had finally arrived.
Now he's free.
Brother John Anderson said what the entire nation felt as Terry Anderson finally appeared before television cameras, a free man.
Is finally free.
Anderson's cousins on Long Island, New York.
This feels sweet.
At the Associated Press, Anderson's colleagues.
It was really nice to see that old Terry smile back again.
Relatives in Sacramento. And the family of released hostage Joseph Sicipio in Pennsylvania. For everyone now, the ordeal is over. You know, history has a way of repeating itself. On March 16th, 1985, the major headlines were all about Middle East peace talks, with the U.S. agreed to the Palestinians joining the Jordanians in one delegation. The kidnapping of a virtually unknown journalist named Terry Anderson was covered in a few lines on the inside page. 7 years later, same stories, still here, but Terry Anderson has become a much bigger part of our lives. Here's ABC's Morton Dean.
He was captured at 8:20 on a Saturday morning in March 1985. He had just finished a game of tennis in West Beirut. From that moment, we all came to know Terry Anderson, seeing him on an occasionally released photo.
My name is Terry Anderson.
Or fuzzy videotape. We learn of his plight from fellow hostages who get released. At first, he is held alone, shackled and blindfolded, then in a small dungeon with another hostage, Father Lawrence Jenko. Later, Reverend Benjamin Weir, William Buckley, and David Jacobson join them. In their small cells, they are repeatedly threatened with death. Hostages who attempt escape are beaten senseless. 3 months after his capture, TWA Flight 847 is hijacked, and a guard tells Anderson he will soon be freed in a package deal. The deal never happens, but the guards improve conditions somewhat after hostage William Buckley dies from pneumonia. Anderson's daughter, Suleme, is born shortly after he's imprisoned, and during his captivity, his father and his brother pass away. His sister, Peggy Say, begins a crusade for her brother's release, meeting with presidents and the Pope, traveling to the Middle East. A released hostage says, to fight off boredom and depression, Anderson takes brisk 40-minute walks around his cell, takes French lessons from hostage Thomas Sutherland, makes a chess set from scraps of tinfoil. But as the years drag on, and after repeated disappointments about release, Anderson beats his head against his cell wall till he bleeds. In a rare message, in 1988, he can still muster a bit of optimism.
One day, soon, God willing, this will end.
In another videotape, this October, the AP newsman reveals he has some access to radio and television. But it's not clear how much he learns about the stories he missed. The election of President Bush, Panama invaded, the Berlin Wall falling, the Iron Curtain collapsing, the U.S. fighting Iraq. And it's not clear whether he knows just how big a story he was during his 6.5 years of captivity. Morton Dean, ABC News, New York.
Anderson's release did not soften the Bush administration's public tone toward Iran. The White House spokesman said again today they are still a terrorist state. But beyond those words, there has been a fundamental change. An undeclared war has ended. Here's ABC's John McWethy.
When the American embassy was overrun, it became clear how much the U.S. was hated in Iran. For the U.S., Iran became a focus of frustration and anger, especially when the effort to rescue the hostages ended in failure.
We have been at war with Iran in reality, though not by declaration, since the moment they took that embassy.
During the next 12 years, the United States used military and political power to try to restrain Iran and isolate it economically. The American Navy protected oil tankers from Iranian attack and by mistake shot down an Iranian airliner. And while Iran fought an 8-year war against Iraq, the U.S. quietly helped Saddam Hussein to win. Iran, for its part, used terrorism, suicide bomb attacks against Americans in Lebanon, hijackings, and more hostages, some of whom were killed. Ronald Reagan talked tough in public, but tried to buy freedom for the hostages by selling weapons to Iran. The effort ended in scandal. The undeclared war with Iran is now ending, partly because 2 years after the death of the Ayatollah Khomeini, Iran's new leaders have been able to steer the country in a new direction.
The obsession, the anger against the United States is going to ease simply, at least on the official level, because of the need that Iran has for loans and investment and technology.
But that does not mean America's troubles are over with Islamic fundamentalists.
They don't want American influences in the Middle East. They don't want our culture. They don't want our ideas.
But they do need the United States, and for that reason, the hostages have been set free and a new corner has been turned. What happens now is likely to be a slow healing of the wounds and eventually guarded, careful cooperation. John McWethy, ABC News, the State Department.
In a moment, testimony from the woman who says she was raped by William Smith.
This is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings. Brought to you by the Discover Card.
Do your holiday shopping with the Discover Card, and you'll not only give, you'll receive a cashback bonus for every charge. It pays to discover.
Every time it rains.
The Discover card pays a cashback bonus on every penny you charge.
Pennies from heaven.
It pays to discover.
This is regular. This is better. This Bayer is regular, but for headaches, Anacin is better. This is regular. This is better. This Bufferin is regular, but for headaches, Anacin is better. What makes Anacin better? It's simple. Regular Bayer and Bufferin have one ingredient for pain, but Anacin has two ingredients, an effective pain medicine plus a second ingredient that makes Anacin work better. For headache relief, get Anacin. Get better.
The accuser and the accused met face-to-face today at the William Smith rape trial in West Palm Beach, Florida. The witness was the woman who claimed she was raped by Senator Kennedy's nephew last Easter weekend at the Kennedy family estate. ABC's Mark Potter is at the trial.
With her face obscured by the courtroom camera to protect her identity, the alleged victim pointed to William Smith. She said she met him in a Palm Beach bar and thought he was a nice man.
I really felt like I could trust him. He seemed to be an intelligent man, a likable man.
But the situation turned ugly, she said, after she gave Smith a ride to the Kennedy estate, walked with him on the beach, and then turned to leave.
He tackled me. And I was on the ground and he was on top of me.
Were you able to see his face at that time?
Yes.
Was the person who was on top of you the defendant, William Smith?
Yes. And I was trying to get out from underneath of him because he was crushing me. And he had my arm and I was yelling, no. And stop. And I tried to arch my back to get him off of me. And he slammed me back into the ground. And I got... And then he pushed my dress up, and he raped me. And I thought he was going to kill me.
After finally breaking free, the woman said she ran into the house and tried to hide between two kitchen counters.
Why did you stay in the house at that time?
I was a mess. I couldn't... I've never been raped. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do.
Shortly thereafter, she said she confronted William Smith.
And he said, I didn't rape you. And I said that I'd called my friends and that we were going to call the police. And he said, well, you shouldn't have done that. Nobody's going to believe you.
How did you feel when he told you that no one would believe you?
I got extremely frightened again.
On Monday, the defense attorney had told the jury that the woman and Smith had sex voluntarily, what he described as an act of love.
Did you feel this was an act of love?
Oh, God, no. It's an act of violence.
In cross-examination, the defense is asking how much she actually remembers from that night. It is just the beginning of what is expected to be tough questioning. If her story holds up, the defense may be forced to put William Smith on the stand to rebut her, which would then expose him to tough questioning about what really happened that night at the Kennedy estate. Mark Potter, ABC News, West Palm Beach, Florida.
In another court case today, the man accused of being involved in the biggest single failure of a savings and loan has been found guilty of securities fraud. Charles Keating was accused of hiding the true condition of Lincoln Savings and Loan. The eventual collapse cost taxpayers $2.5 billion. We'll be back in just a moment.
Here's a sweet idea for breakfast.
Try Sunsweet prune juice for a change.
It's naturally sweet and delicious.
Sunsweet prune juice adds no sugar.
It's perfect just the way it is.
Remind you of anyone?
Not really.
There's
There's never been a better time to buy a mink.
Norelco says don't shave your legs, baby them with Norelco's incredibly close, comfortable shave that leaves you baby smooth, baby soft. Norelco Lady Shave Razors, dry or wet, we make close comfortable.
Hers is a boundless energy. We share that energy at Texaco, leading the way in exploration, conservation, and alternate energy. The energy to go as far as we can, and then go even further.
I saw my doctor because the pain was so bad. I was afraid I needed surgery for my hemorrhoids. I was itching. The burning was awful. But my doctor said my hemorrhoids weren't serious. I didn't need surgery. He told me it was time I started using Preparation H.
Preparation H helps shrink swelling of inflamed hemorrhoidal tissues and often brings relief from pain, itching, and burning for hours.
What a difference Preparation H makes.
Doctor recommended Preparation H.
There's a report in the New England Journal of Medicine tonight about a miracle drug that you can probably find in your own medicine cabinet, aspirin. Earlier studies have shown that aspirin can be a powerful weapon against heart disease. Now there's evidence that it may also help prevent colon cancer, the second leading cause of cancer deaths in this country. Here's our medical editor, Dr. Tim Johnson.
The new research looks at aspirin use in over 662,000 adults who were followed for 6 years to record deaths from colon cancer. The results indicate that people who took aspirin at least 16 times a month for at least a year cut their chances of dying from colon cancer by 40%.
We're not sure why aspirin could prevent colon cancer, but there is evidence that that is indeed a possibility.
Because aspirin interferes with blood clotting, another possibility is that in aspirin takers, early cancers bleed more readily.
If you take a pill that makes bleeding easier, it's possible that a small cancer could bleed sooner and lead to an earlier diagnosis.
So if aspirin might work either by improving the chance of early detection of colon cancer or by actual prevention, who should be taking it?
I wouldn't recommend that everyone run out and start taking aspirin to prevent colon cancer. We don't have enough evidence for that.
Given aspirin's growing reputation as a wonder drug, many will be tempted to take it on their own. But aspirin can cause dangerous bleeding in some people, which is why doctors always recommend a medical consultation before making that decision. Dr. Timothy Johnson, ABC News, Boston.
Also in the New England Journal of Medicine, a study on guns and violent death, which treats the linkage not as a criminal problem, but a medical one. The report looks at murder and suicide in Washington, D.C., and the effects of a 15-year-old gun control law. Here's ABC's George Strait.
Despite the high murder rate in the nation's capital, the new study says it would be even higher without the restrictive gun control law here.
The data tell us very clearly that after the law went into effect, there was a reduction in homicides and suicides committed with a gun.
Before the gun law passed in 1976, there were about 13 gun-related homicides a month. But after it, and for the next 10 years, the rate fell 25% to about 9 homicides per month. Recently, the homicide rate has gone up, but Dr. Lofton attributes that rise to the violence associated with crack cocaine.
Without the gun law, it would be a lot worse than it is.
There were 23,000 homicides last year nationwide. Doctors now call that a public health problem they need to do something about.
Medical organizations have been very effective in lobbying the government, Congress, to do important things. In this respect, they've not been potent, and I think they could do a lot more.
The National Rifle Association insists it can defeat any effort by doctors to establish national handgun control. But it's clear the doctors' lobby has the kind of political clout that can cause the NRA serious problems. George Strait, ABC News, Washington.
When we come back, the grounding of Pan American.
Can a razor cut your beard off below the skin without the blades even touching your face? It can if it's a Norelco. Norelco's patented lift and cut system lifts the hair, so when it's cut, it can actually drop below skin level without the blades even touching your face. Are you getting a shave this incredibly close and exceptionally comfortable? You are when you shave with Norelco. Norelco, we make close comfortable.
You know, I can still remember the very first candy given to me by my grandfather. It was Werther's Original, and I was 4. I had a little trouble opening that shiny golden wrapper, but then, well, I'll never forget that first taste. Sweet and creamy and just plain good. But there was something else, too. I remember feeling I must be somebody very special when my grandpa gave me his wonderful butter candy. So, now I'm the grandfather. And what else would I give my little grandson but my Werther's Original? He's somebody special, too.
I have just the thing for that cold.
Most kids think that medicine has to taste bad. But there's one cold medicine that relieves both kids and colds. Grape-flavored Dimetapp Elixir. Recommended most by pediatricians and pharmacists. After all, a cold medicine can't work if you can't get it down.
You like Dimetapp?
Dimetapp Elixir and Dimetapp DM for colds with coughs. Works as good as it tastes.
Here's a great big idea.
Salad shooter.
From Presto, professional salad shooter slicer shredder. Big capacity and power. Special blades to point and slice thick, slice thin, shred, even ripple cut. Right where you want.
Salad shooter.
From Presto.
The former Ku Klux Klan leader David Duke announced today that he will take on President Bush as a candidate for the Republican presidential nomination. He accused Mr. Bush of selling out the Republican Party. A White House spokesman said that David Duke stands for bigotry and racism and represents the worst in American politics. President Bush sounded a new, more pessimistic tone on the economy today. Instead of talking up how the recovery is starting to take hold, Mr. Bush said the U.S. faces tough times. That assessment comes on a day when one of the most visible symbols of America's past dominance in the field of aviation shut down. Pan American World Airways has stopped flying. Here's ABC's Stephen Ogg.
One of the last flights Pan Am flew today from Washington to New York flew home empty. The end for the airline that pioneered international aviation left many passengers stranded.
I'm real disappointed. I guess I'll have to call a travel agent and see what they can do.
And employees dismayed.
Pan American World Airways is a wonderful airline. And it's just very, very, very sad.
Pan Am had been in bankruptcy since last January after losing money for years. It finally collapsed after Delta Airlines backed out of a deal to give Pan Am money which would have kept it flying.
The losses were too big, the economy wasn't strong enough, and at some point you have to call a halt to it and say, wait a minute, I'm not going to throw good money after bad.
And there's no evidence that the economy that helped bring down Pan Am is getting much healthier. As the Federal Reserve Board met in Washington today, members had before them the latest survey of Federal Reserve banks, which said the economic recovery was slowing down. In fact, the government released a new figure today called the gross domestic product, the sum total of all the goods and services produced in the United States. It grew at a 1.7% annual rate during the summer, somewhat slower than earlier estimates.
It's not a rapid recovery. It's a slow-paced recovery. We expect to see it picking up next year.
The new measure no longer includes profits American companies earn overseas, so most economists say it better reflects the true state of the domestic economy. One result, the new figures show the recession was deeper than first reported, but the recovery remains weak. Stephen Ogg, ABC News, Washington.
On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrials lost more than 17 points today to close at 29.11. The trading was heavy. We had planned a second American Agenda report tonight on children and how very differently France and the United States spend money for families. What we didn't count on was so much news, all the breaking news. We'll have that report tomorrow. And we'll have our final report in a moment.
Do you have a cold?
Yes, I do. It feels like the ocean is in my head.
Here's 2 cold medicines. This relieves these 3 symptoms, this 9. Choose one.
9. I have all of those symptoms. Sinus pain, nasal congestion, and I have a scratchy throat.
Here's what you chose. Are you shocked?
Yeah, I am.
Would you try Dristan Cold? How do you feel?
The Dristan really works.
Dristan Cold relieves 9 tough cold symptoms. Dristan Cold, part of the Dristan family of products. Dristan, the face of relief today.
Home for the holidays with Domino's Pizza's Season's Greetings Special. Now get a medium pepperoni pizza for just $2.99 with your favorite large pizza at the regular price.
Nobody knows.
Ho, ho!
Like Domino's, how you like pizza at home.
I was a dedicated beard wearer until my wife gave me the new Remington Microscreen Elite. It's quick. It's close. The Remington Microscreen Elite has 2 ultra-thin screens. So comfortable, shaves as close as a blade or your money back. That's Remington.
Now you don't need a prescription to get prescription strength medicine for itches and rashes. Introducing new Maximum Strength Cord-Aid. Now with twice the healing medicine. New Maximum Strength Cord-Aid. Prescription strength without a prescription.
If your doctor has recommended Metamucil and you like the results, but you don't like those glasses of thick liquid, change to FiberCon. Get the same fiber action in easy-to-swallow tablets. Get doctor-recommended FiberCon.
Tonight on Nightline with Ted Koppel, America's long hostage ordeal ends with Terry Anderson's freedom today. A talk with a former hostage on Nightline tonight.
Finally tonight, Pearl Harbor once again. As we near the 50th anniversary of the attack, tourism officials have seen a surge of visitors to the USS Arizona Memorial. For one of them today, this was his first visit to the memorial, but not to Pearl Harbor. Here's ABC's Ken Kashiwahara.
In the peacefulness of the Missouri countryside, the horrors of Pearl Harbor have remained alive for half a century.
When those bombs and stuff were all hitting, while you just, well, all I could do was hold on.
Howard Burke was a 25-year-old gunner's mate on the battleship Arizona that December day. His home was filled with reminders, the mementos, the medals, the memories.
The ship was all on fire from the boat deck on forward. I heard some guys hollering for help. I looked back, and it was, you could see their hands. It was giving up and going down.
Today, Howard Burke came back to relive that day where it all happened. With his son and granddaughter, Burke made his first pilgrimage to the Pearl Harbor Monument honoring his Arizona shipmates who died. 1,100 of them are still entombed in the sunken ship.
I've got a lot of dead buddies laying down in there. It's her home.
For 50 years, pressures of his job and health problems had kept Howard Burke away. But this anniversary, he said, was too important for him not to return.
It's a turret right there I was in.
He was eager to describe how he jumped off the sinking ship and swam through water covered with oil an inch thick, how he was lucky to survive. But his emotions overwhelmed him as he got to the wall of names, as he quietly searched for friends who had died so violently 50 years ago.
They didn't have a chance, the guys up forward. Never had a chance. It's just sad feeling for the guys, that went down with the ship.
Despite the pain of remembering, Howard Burke said he was glad he came back. It was his duty, he said, to pay tribute to his fallen shipmates. Ken Kashiwahara, ABC News, Pearl Harbor.
That's our report on World News Tonight. I'm Sam Donaldson. For everyone here at ABC News, good night.
And now, the news continues with Channel 2 News at 6.